Hello everyone, in this video I'm going to show you how to create a virtual machine in ESXi server 6.5 and start installing an operating system in that virtual machine. I'm logged into the server 172.16.12.1. So I go to the virtual machine menu on the left side and then create a register VM. Then I select create a new virtual machine and go next. Then I give a name to this virtual machine. I will create a virtual machine for Ubuntu. So I select the OS family as Linux and the guest OS version as Ubuntu. Then I go next. Now there is only one data store, which is data store 1 in this server, and data store 1 is the default data store created on the local storage on this server. So I select that one and go next. I take the CPU, memory and hard disk configuration for this virtual machine. I will select 2 CPU and 2 gig memory and then 30 gig hard drive space. I want this virtual machine to connect to data network and then go next and finish. Now the virtual machine has been created. We need to install an OS to this virtual machine. Also, I want to show you how to create a virtual machine and map the storage to a NAS device. In another video, I showed you how to create a data store on a NAS device. I'm going to create that data store on a NAS device on this machine as well. So go to a new tab and type in the QNAP IP for rack 2. The QNAP IP for rack 2 is 172.16.20.1. So I log in. The reason I'm logging into this QNAP is that there is no data store mapped to the QNAP. And this data store 1 is the local data store on this server. So first I'm gonna create a data store and map it to the QNAP. And go to control panel and then shared folder. So first I'm gonna create a new shared folder at the QNAP. And then create. Then I will give permission to this shared folder. So shared folder has been created in the QNAP. Now I go to the ESXi server and create a new data store. Select Mount NFS data store and go next. I'll give a name to the data store and the server IP is 172.16.20.1 and NFS share name is share. This must be the same name as the shared folder name. So I go next and finish. Now I have a second data store here. This is mapped to the QNAP. So I go to the virtual machine. Next I'm going to create another virtual machine. So create new virtual machine, and let's say I want to create a virtual machine for CentOS 7. So I select the OS family as Linux and then OS version as CentOS 7 and go next. Now I have two options to choose a data store. This time I'm gonna choose a data store on the QNAP and go next, and then 2 processor, 2 gig memory, 20 gig hard drive, and connect it to data net, and then next and finish. Now these VMs have been created, however no OS exists in this VM. To install an OS I need to mount an ISO image for the OS to this VM. So if I select one of these VM and go to the edit menu, now if I go to the CD DVD drive and expand it, then I can see there's an option which says data store ISO file, and then I look for ISO image here. As data store 1 has 2 virtual machine folder, ISO images are not there. In the other data store I created another virtual machine and this folder is for that virtual machine, so no ISO image in there, and I don't see any other ISO images. However, I know that there is an ISO image folder in the QNAP, so to make that available here I need to create a data store and map that data store to the ISO folder on the QNAP. So I cancel this one, and first I will check if the QNAP has an ISO folder that is shared. So if I look here, I can see there's a folder called ISO. I want to make sure this is accessible, so I go to the permission and then select NFS host access, and it has permission, so this should be available to be mapped at the ESXi server, and this shared folder name is ISO. So I go to the ESXi server and then first create a data store. So go to storage, new storage, and then mount NFS data store next, and then its name is ISO. Server IP is 172.16.20.1, which is the QNAP IP, as you can see, and NFS share folder name is share and then ISO. As I saw, the folder name is ISO. So I go next and then finish. So now I have the ISO shared folder, and this shared folder should have some ISO files. So I open this and data store browse so that I can see if there isn't any ISO image. It looks like there is no ISO image in here, but someone created a CentOS virtual machine on the ISO folder on QNAP. So let's see what is there. So I will go to the home and open file station, and look the ISO folder content, and I can see that there are several ISO images in here. However, what I accessed from the virtual machine doesn't look like this folder. So I will recreate a share on this folder, okay, and then I will try to map that shared folder to the ISO data store on the ESXi server. So close this one. It couldn't access the data store correctly, so I go to the control panel. So I'm gonna remove this one first, remove the share but not the file. So if I remove the files, then all of the files inside that shared folder will be deleted. So I don't want to delete the files, I just remove the share. Select yes and OK. Next I'm gonna create the share just to make sure that this share is working properly. So I go and create shared folder and name same as the folder name, and then create Now I will give permission to this folder and change the permission type to NFS and then no limit, apply. And close. Now go to the data store on the ESXi, and probably it didn't reflect the new shared folder. Still I'm gonna check. So I select this one and then browse. It didn't reflect, so I will remove this data store and then create a new one. And next and finish. Now I try to browse the new data store. Now I can see all the ISO images are here. So the virtual machines should be able to find these ISO images. So I go to the virtual machine where I want to install an OS. Let's say I choose Ubuntu and select edit. Now I expand CD DVD drive. Make sure that I select the option connect and power on. Now from the host device I will change it to the option data store ISO file, because the host device is the physical CD DVD drive on the physical server itself, which I'm not accessing. I'm going to access an ISO image on the network or data store. So I select data store ISO file and then select the ISO, and now I choose the right ISO file from here. We have Ubuntu desktop, so I'm going to select this one and then click on select. Again, I need to make sure that the connect on power on is checked and then save. Now the ISO image has been mounted with the CD drive. If I power on this machine, it will start booting from this ISO image, and that means it will start installation. So let's check it out. I make this window bigger by double clicking. I can also make this window even bigger. And as you can see, Ubuntu installation has started. In this video, I'm not going to show Ubuntu installation, but there are other videos in my channel which shows Ubuntu installation. The installation process is the same, doesn't matter whether you install at an ESXi server VM or in a VM at a desktop computer. Let's maximize this screen. And now the installation wizard is visible on the screen. I'm going to cancel this installation. So I go to the power and then shut down. So I will let this virtual machine shut down. In the meantime, I will go to another virtual machine and show you the installation process again for another virtual machine. Let's say I want to install Windows Server 2016, for which I already have created a virtual machine. Now there is no CD/DVD mounted here, as you can see, so I need to mount an ISO image to this CD/DVD. So I go to edit menu, and then select data store ISO file from CD/DVD, and then browse to the data store that is mounted to a folder that contains ISO images. As you remember, I created this data store. I went to the QNAP, shared the folder that contains the ISO images, came to the ESXi and created a data store and mapped that data store to that shared folder. Now I have a Windows Server 2016 ISO image. I select this one, and also I make sure that this connect option is checked, or you can expand and say connected power on, and then save. Now this server is empty without any operating system. As soon as I power this on, it will start booting from the ISO image and will start the installation. Also, I'm not going to show the full Windows Server installation in this video, but I'm going to show you that the installation does start as soon as I power it on. I will click inside this window and you can see it's loading files. In the meantime, let's check what happened to Ubuntu machine and minimize this one. Ubuntu is still running, it didn't power off. I will try again. Simply power it off by force. So I go to this power off option in ESXi and click on that. While it's in the power off process, I go back to Windows Server, and as you can see, the Windows Server 2016 installation process has started. I'm going to cancel this installation as well because I don't want to show you all the steps in the installation. There are other videos in my channel showing the installation of Windows Server 2016. So I select on cancel yes. Because as soon as it power on, it just starts the installation process. What you need to do is, once the installation is complete, you shut down this virtual machine, and then I have to do it now by force because it starts the installation as soon as it powers on. Now after the machine is shut down, you need to unmount the ISO image from the CD/DVD. That's what I'm going to show you. So I close this window. Now this machine is powered off. As you can see, power on button is active. While it's powered off, you go to the edit menu, and then change the CD DVD drive to host device. That means it is unmounted, and next time it's not gonna try to start booting from the CD drive, rather it will boot from the C drive which has Windows Server installed. Let's check the Ubuntu machine, and it didn't power it off, so I'm gonna force shutdown again. Now it did power off. If I look at the machines, this is powered off, this is powered off. To create a virtual machine and install an operating system, first you need to create a virtual machine with the required specification, and then you need to get an ISO image either locally on this physical machine, or it can be on a network attached storage such as a NAS device like this QNAP. If it is on a QNAP, then you can share those ISO images to all the ESXi servers that can communicate with this QNAP. So we have an ISO folder, and that ISO folder contains several ISO images. So first you need to make sure this ISO folder is accessible from the ESXi server. To make it accessible, we created a data store called ISO, and this data store was mounted to the shared folder called ISO on the QNAP. So I need it, if it's not already shared, you need to make this folder as a shared folder, and then also give permission to access from any host if you want to access it from any ESXi servers. Okay, so if you do want to see the complete installation of Ubuntu or Windows Server, you can check out my channel, and there are videos that shows how to install Ubuntu and how to install Windows Server 2016 as well as other configuration. I hope you found this video was helpful. If you would like to receive notifications on future videos, please make sure you are subscribed to my channel and set up notification by tapping on the bell. Thank you for watching.